Mystery Science Theater 3000 is my favorite TV show of all time. I legitimately cannot picture what course my life might have taken had I not stumbled unwittingly onto MST3K while sneakily watching Comedy Central past my bedtime one magical night in the early 1990s and being gobsmacked that someone had finally made a TV show just for me. I've seen every episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000 at least once. I went and sought out the KTMA episodes. I followed the series through Joel to Mike, through TV's Frank to Pearl, and from Comedy Central to the Sci-Fi Channel. I followed Film Crew, Cinematic Titanic, and Riff Tracks, and you bet your ass I gave to that Kickstarter, and I can't wait to see the reboot series. Although that having been said, I'm also a little bit nervous, a tiny bit, just a touch, and not because of the concerns some other folks have raised, as in, yeah, I don't love that not a lot of the original cast and crew are back, but you know, 1999 was a long-ass time ago, and even if you did get everyone back just for the novelty of it, you probably can't recreate the same chemistry and atmosphere again, because time moves forward and people change one way or another. And yeah, while I definitely see where people are coming from in regards to the new casting, i.e. the original series nurtured a largely unknown pool of quirky offbeat talent decidedly removed from the established US comedy hotbeds, whereas this reboot cast thus far largely looks like someone did a Google search for nerd culture celebrity and cast the first two results that came in, but come on, Patton Oswalt and Felicia Day are funny as hell. You know they're gonna kick ass as the new Mads, and I saw Jonah Ray riff at the Riff Tracks MST reunion show. He's good at it, no worries there. And yet, yeah, it is undeniable that where the original series was this odd, independent, singular, handmade, wholly original, came-out-of-nowhere thing, the new series is unavoidably going to be a very different creature. MST3K is an institution now, and the need to live up to its own legacy, and the fact that popular culture and just the world are so fucking different now than they were even in the last most recent point in franchise history is gonna mean that the series will have to exist in a very different circumstance and answer to very different standards. And I can't help but wonder if one of those standards is gonna be, is this still relevant? Wait. Hold on, don't hurt me yet. Mystery Science Theater 3000 will always be relevant to me, pal, but I'm an old man. The original Game Boy, Generation 1 Transformers, and Night Court are still relevant to me. I'm talking more about the relevancy to people who didn't grow up on the show, i.e. probably most of the people currently in what would otherwise be the target demographic for a series about puppets saying funny things during movies. Now let's be clear, like we established a moment ago, the biggest fundamental change between the show then and now is that instead of being a scrappy cult item discovered by like-minded comedy nerds on basic cable, MST3K is now a vaunted pop culture institution with a multi-million-dollar Kickstarter behind it, and enough overall exposure that the kids probably at least know it as that show your parents, older siblings, or some guy on YouTube insisted you check out, or perhaps most likely as, hey, this is where Riff Tracks came from. So obviously it's going to have a certain amount of relevance right up front. It's a popular, well-known thing already. I'm talking more about conceptual relevance, as in, does the idea of Mystery Science Theater 3000 still register separately from the fact that it is Mystery Science Theater 3000? And if not, does that matter? Here's the thing, the whole idea of movie riffing is a thing now largely because of Mystery Science Theater, but the genius of the show's conception was in giving form and polish to something that lots of people were already familiar with as part of their everyday lives. And I don't mean deliberately seeking out bad movies to make jokes about. I mean making fun of, literally, as in, this is not fun, but let's make fun out of it, things, usually movies that were on TV. See, this may be hard for you to believe if you're not, fuck, I don't know, 20 or younger, maybe more even, but once upon a time, TV did not listen to you. A television was basically an informational aqueduct. You turned it on and whatever was coming through poured out into your living room, which is what we used to call the central room of a house where everyone would hang out to do anything that wasn't eating, shitting, fucking, or sleeping. Look, just trust me that it existed and ask Siri about it after the show, okay? Bottom line, for a long-ass time, if you had a TV, that's what you had. A TV. There was no DVR, no search by genre, no on-demand, no streaming, no on-screen menus to tell you what was on. Oh, maybe if you were some Richie Rich motherfucker and you had a TV fancy enough it would show you what channel it was on screen. That was some Star Trek shit to us. But for the most part, you turned on your TV, and if you wanted to know what the fuck it was you were watching, you had to wait for the commercial break, which you could not skip, for them to tell you. Or you could buy a weekly book the size of a fucking paperback called a TV Guide, and it would tell you what was supposed to be on, but they had to print that shit up like a week in advance so the listings would always change. And there was also a lot fewer channels. How many fewer? Imagine your app variety if your parents set the tablet to kid-safe mode. Speaking of which, it goes without saying there was no smartphones, no laptops, no tablets, and regardless of when it was actually invented, until 1996 or so, basically nobody had the internet. Seriously, more people had fucking ham radios than had the internet at their house. So for passive, I just want to chill the fuck out entertainment, switching on the TV and flipping around looking for something good to be on was pretty much what you had. And sometimes there wasn't gonna be anything actually good on, especially given that TV networks only had so much content to work with in the first place. But they needed something to put on, and old bad movies, particularly sci-fi and horror movies, where at least you could count on monsters, spaceships, babes, and other such novelties being on hand to catch people's interest and get them to stick around through the commercials, were of course perfect time filler, and TV programmers made liberal use of them back in the day. So yeah, even though nobody was ever actually imprisoned and forced to watch bad films on the Satellite of Love by Dr. Forrester, you would often find yourself watching something bad and just grooving on the badness, maybe even in form of talking back to the TV if more than one person was there. It was just what you did. Mystery Science Theater 3000 essentially took that very common pastime and said, okay, how about that, but with professional comedy writers and some puppets? And what I'm left wondering is, however funny the new series can be, now that an entire generation and counting has largely grown up with such a plethora of entertainment options that Joel and Mike and now Jonah's circumstances are no longer comparable to the shared universal experience of a mass audience, does the idea of the series still have an innate familiar appeal outside of being a reference to itself? And if not, does the appeal wear off faster? I don't think that will be the case. The series is being made by talented people who seem clearly committed to delivering the goods, but I do still wonder. Great comedy is timeless, yes, but when it comes to parody and satire, some acts and routines have an initial shelf life as the world they were built to react to changes shape around them. The Daily Show was a vital, desperately needed institution for the first decade and a half of the 21st century, up through 9/11, the Bush administration, and the first part of the Obama administration. But today, it's a shell of itself, and with the world having shifted around it in reaction to what it did, and much of its core talent having evolved out into their own specialized entities. Mystery Science Theater 3000 went away once, and in its place we got Riff Tracks, Cinematic Titanic, and most recently the Mads. Now the original is coming back, and I'm excited because it still matters to me, damn it. I just hope enough of the audience, the culture, and the world feels the same way I do.